Hello, this is James Robert Deal. I'm a real estate attorney and a real estate broker. I work with Keller Williams Everett, and I'm a managing broker, so I'm recruiting experienced brokers to join my downline. And part of the benefit of that is that you can call me if you have any problems with your transactions, and you and I can negotiate a percentage. I work with a broker right now who pays me sometimes 10%, sometimes 50%, sometimes 20%. And sometimes he just turns the whole deal over to me and he takes 20%. For example, when he's doing a lease, he doesn't want to do leasing. I have done enough leasing to know that it's not really profitable and it takes a lot of time. But I should charge extra for the drafting of the lease, which is sometimes necessary if I'm representing the landlord. Now, the topic of this particular video is how I can help other brokers. I'm used to advertise, I'm a broker and I'm better because I'm a real estate transactional attorney, and I don't say that anymore. What I say is that I prefer to be a wholesale broker, to help other brokers with their complicated deals. And if you've never done a business sale, I can help you with a business sale. One that involves seller financing, a wraparound, a lease option. And the clients like it because I can quote a flat fee payable at closing. Now, as you watch the categories by here, let me skip. I help other brokers put deals together. Now let's see where that goes. I gotta check all these links here. Helping other brokers. So get to that page, or you can see it in the drop down right here. Helping other brokers. Although the link is really just helping-brokers. So if you go down a little further, you'll see my co-brokerage listing agreement. So if you're a real estate broker and you're trying to take a listing and they're asking you legal questions, you can say, well, on deals like this, I always co-broker with Attorney Deal. He's a KW broker with us, and he will answer all those questions, and he'll probably quote you a flat fee payable at closing. Is it okay if I talk to Mr. Deal about this? Why, fine. And so if you go down further, you'll see the terms of our co-brokerage agreement. So there's also a Word version right here, which means that you can customize it. To the best of your ability, then send it to me, and I'll see how it works. Now, the initial consultation is no charge. Telephone. And sometimes I have people come to the office, and if they're thinking of buying or selling, then and a broker brings a client in, there's no charge for that. The idea is that I want to figure out if I can help, and then I can quote a flat fee payable at closing. So that's for getting listings, and it helps a broker to reduce his anxiety level, because either I will be answering the hard questions. I will be following the transaction from the very beginning all the way to the very end. Your other choice is to just say to the buyer, to the seller who's giving you the listing, well, you need to go pick out a lawyer. And they go out and they find a lawyer who doesn't have much experience, and therefore he's cautious in his advice, and he might discourage them from buying. So if I'm in the deal as a co-broker, then the primary broker needs to decide, am I going to represent the seller, or am I going to be a neutral mediator? And I've done that. And in the real estate world, it's called no agency agency. So I act as a mediator between buyer and seller, and I produce the best, what I think is the best, fairest documents for everybody. Then The seller has the seller's lawyer look at it, the buyer's lawyer looks at it, and they all approve it, and so the transaction is smooth, and nobody's going to sue anybody afterwards because it's all been reviewed by attorneys. I do have a list of attorneys that I respect, and I think they would give people straight advice. On my attorney list is people that I've never worked for or with, but people that I know do real estate law and know what they're talking about. It's basically my belief that being a transactional lawyer, the best way to be a transactional lawyer is to be available to take the listings or the co-listings. Now, most lawyers don't want to do yard signs and flyers, and they don't want to do comps. What they want to do is to counsel the buyer from the very beginning to the very end, find out if they need to incorporate, who's going to be on title, do they need a partnership agreement? And often I do the partnership agreement for no extra charge. If you're going to qualify for more expensive property, then you need more income. So that's why I encourage buyers to put together a partnership. Maybe it's an extended family. Chinese do this, Vietnamese, Koreans put together, the Filipinos put together family partnerships. One of my friends down the street has 4 sons, daughters-in-law, daughters-in-law, sons-in-law, who each pay him $700 a month. Really helps pay the mortgage. Now, all those could be on title. So that gives all of them a start in owning real estate. So they might work together to buy the second property and all move over there and use all their incomes to qualify. So think of calling me for help if your buyer needs a partnership agreement. I can usually do that for a flat fee payable at closing. So I try to make at least $4,000 or $5,000 on a deal, although maybe a regular traditional transaction, if I look at it, I'll maybe charge $2,500. But it's always negotiable, and what else is negotiable is that the listing broker and the selling broker can agree to pay part of it, or they can agree to pay none of it, and I'm in for an extra 1%, so the total commission is 7%. I get 1% payable at closing. And there's some transactions where that's really justifiable. The brokers really need an attorney who's got experience with all the forms, with all the customs that are involved. So we're back here with helping other brokers. Now there's another form over here you can click on, and this is the co-brokerage buyer-broker agreement. This is for working with, I better fix that link. Oh, there it is. It worked. Haha. So this is if you're working with a buyer and you want to impress the buyer that although this is a complex transaction and you're new in the business, that should not stop them from listing with you, because you know the property and you know the person and you speak their language. What if it's somebody whose primary language is not English? And your job is to make sure I do a good job. And my job is to help with all the legal issues and help the buyer figure out a way to buy. So this is the co-brokerage listing addendum to the standard co-broker agreement. And you can click here for the Word version. I've got to upload that. So, but anyway, it's going to be there by the time a few minutes after I finish this. While I'm here, let me also advertise that I help people who are for sale by owner. In that circumstance, I can represent seller or buyer or be a neutral mediator. And I usually like to collect at least part of my fee on a for sale by owner, because they often come to me before they really know what the deal is. So I'm also very accustomed to doing mortgage modification. So that's a circumstance where the seller, instead of doing a short sale, can do a modification. So what you do is you go to a different website, which is above the margin here, and it's called mortgagemodificationattorney.com. So it's against your interest. Your interest is in getting them to sell. What if they're behind on the mortgage? I would advise them to go into Chapter 13 bankruptcy, to give them lots of time to work it out, and then go through a modification. And if the property's underwater, they might get a principal reduction. So here's the section on for sale by owner. That's a picture of downtown Edmonds, their fountain. We all love Edmonds. Also, I'm experienced in BizOp sales, so if you've got a client who's buying one or selling one, bring me into the deal. We'll negotiate a split, and I'll help your deal to go together. And help you find buyers, because I have some connections with another broker who's very knowledgeable about business sales. I'm also available to help with seller financing, and you should not write off seller financing. Now, usually there's a mortgage, and what you do is you leave the mortgage in place, and the buyer pays the seller through a collection account, and then the collection account pays the bank. This is intended to be a short-term arrangement. This is not an arrangement to use for first-time buyers or people who are not financially strong. It's something to use if the buyer is strong enough that they can refinance if they need to. And it's typically used by flippers and by people who are buying houses to resell. It's very expensive to go borrow $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 or more and pay really high interest rates and really high points. So the buyer instead just takes over the seller's mortgage, gets title into his name, and within a year's time the construction is done, the rehab, and it's ready to put on the market. So the due on sale law is something you can read about under seller financing. So the due on sale law doesn't prohibit you from selling. It doesn't make the loan automatically due. It merely gives the bank the option of saying, please pay us off, and you got plenty of time to pay them off. And the due on sale law says that the banks should negotiate reasonable assumptions with people who want to do seller financing. So a lot of people are just scared to death of due on sale clauses. Well, I'm not. So my email address is james@jamesdeal.com. Go to any of my websites. You can go to jamesdeal.com or jamesrobertdeal.com and do your searching for property. And if you'll sign up and give me your email address, you can pose questions and I'll try to answer your questions. And if you put down your phone number, it indicates it's okay for me to call. I suggest you follow it up with an email and tell me if you just want to communicate by email. That's okay. Now, some people, when they go to jamesdeal.com or jamesrobertdeal.com, what they do is they put down a 10-digit number that is not their phone number. So they might put down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 9, 1, or something like that. If you don't want me to call, then don't put down your phone number. I have agents who are part of my team, and sometimes I let them make occasional phone calls to ask if they can be of help. So if you don't want me to call, just put down a random number that you know and send me a comment, and we'll communicate by email and I'll tell you if I can help you. So, the topic is helping brokers. The reason why I like Keller Williams is because we're open to co-brokering with each other. We form teams. Experienced brokers have teams, and then they recruit new agents mostly. But those experienced brokers can also kind of make a little team of their own on the side and do transactions together. So I offer to co-broker with other brokers to help them with transactions that give them a bad feeling in the seat of their pants, that transactions where they know they're going to be asked legal questions, and the client could be sent to an attorney, but he's going to probably ask for $2,000 and charge $300 an hour. And maybe he doesn't know the MLS forms, he doesn't know the MLS rules or the customs, and the attorney who's most likely to understand those is an attorney who's also a broker. And I'm a managing broker in the process of recruiting attorneys to become attorney brokers, because I believe that an attorney who's a transactional attorney, like an escrow attorney, can do a better job of being an attorney if he also is willing to serve or eligible to serve as the broker. Now, if he did that, he'd probably co-broker with other brokers who would take care of the signs, help him with comps, help with staging. And his job is going to be to do the paperwork, check the paperwork, look out for any problems, be available to answer the questions, all for a flat fee payable at closing. That's my business model. Not to go out and beat the bushes to get seller listings or to take buyer listings and drive people around. Although I will work with buyers, I'm rather selective about it. But I'd prefer to have a real estate broker from my team to take care of the showings, so I can focus on helping other brokers and buyers and sellers with the legal issues, the paperwork. Because there was a case in 1986, and I met the judge after he wrote it, and I thought it was just an excellent ruling that says that selling real estate is the practice of law. And real estate agents, it is the authorized practice of law by a non-attorney, provided that the broker use standard forms and not answer legal questions. What that's saying is that selling real estate is the practice of law, and so I think attorneys should be doing it. I think every significant law office should have at least one attorney who's also a broker, because they can, number one, charge more. If you're only going to get 1% on a $500,000 deal, that's $5,000, and that's more than what the attorney would make just doing a one or two quick looks at the paperwork. Instead, the attorney makes more money and therefore can spend more time doing a more comprehensive job of representing the buyer or the seller, and accept a flat fee payable at closing. So that's what I like to do. I urge you to visit my political website, jamesrobertdeal.org. I'm a Green politician. I intend to run for Washington governor in 2020 because our current governor, our current Democratic Party, is not green enough. And you can read about that at jamesrobertdeal.org. And we need to set up a Washington State Bank so that all the borrowing that we do could be done at a lower interest rate and without paying points to Wall Street brokers. I also urge you to take a look at my fluorideclassaction.com website. We put toxic waste in our drinking water, and it's called fluoride, but it also contains lead. So every liter, this is about half a liter, of Seattle or Everett or Tacoma water that you drink contains, guess, how many atoms of lead that all come from the fluoride? 1,000? More. 1,000,000? More. 1,000,000,000? More. 3 trillion atoms of lead in every glass of Seattle drinking water. Fluoridation is such a totally absurd. It does almost no good for, or probably zero good for the teeth, and there are better ways to protect your teeth. I also invite you to visit my website, whattoserveagoddess.com. That's a book title. Buy my book. It's about how to eat vegan food and enjoy it. And it's about the history of vegetarians and all the famous people all through history who thought that was a good way to eat. It's less harmful to the animals, and you live longer. So Washington Attorney Broker is my real estate website. If you're buying, go to jamesdeal.org. If you're selling, go to jamesrobertdeal.org. And be glad to help you out with your questions. I have an open telephone line to brokers, buyers, and sellers if you think you might be buying or selling. It's been nice, and I hope I can be of service to you.